You brought up intersectionality and how certain minority groups do really well. For example, out of Dubai, we've got Indian nationals that sort of make it to America with a green card in hand, hit the ground running. They do really well. But what we have also seen, aside from those demographics, is the disparity with the rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. Elon Musk is looking to become the first trillionaire in history. Why do you need all this wealth when you do have, pockets of America that require attention? Do you mind sort of giving me your take? I know it's a big topic, but I really want to pick your mind when it comes to this idea.
Well, we should probably focus in on some aspects of it because there's so many. I mean, our tax policy is a challenge. Our tax policy isn't fair in America. Our states' rights are an issue. No other country has to deal with the level of states' rights that we do. So we have no unification in education. We have no unification in benefits. We have no unification in public safety. I could go on and on. And because of those disparities, you have a favoritism that happens. And you get situations where places who try to pursue any level of parity or equality are really penalized for it. You can see it in what some folks like to call the liberal cities, right? Mm-hmm. The closer you try to get to equality, you're penalized because it's not a federal effort. It's a local effort, and equality shouldn't be local. Our structural issues, sadly, I think date back to post-Civil War, where you were trying to preserve states' rights because you didn't have agreement on how we should move forward. And in that effort to preserve those rights, you created too much independence.
For the states.
For the states. And then you produced a situation where different places could advance at a different pace. And you didn't have a unified standard. So you had geographic favoritism, right? Like you had a reason why people might move to California because they might have different opportunities than they would in Missouri or
there's a different
Tennessee.
Minimum wage in Massachusetts,
exactly,
versus Texas.
And there's a different cost of living, and I get that part. But at some point, you have to acknowledge globalization and that it's in the nation's best interest. It's almost at a national security level that we have a better level of education of everyone. You have a better level of skilled worker. You have better access to retraining and reshoring. At some point, you have to accept that it's in the nation's interest.
So would you propose the federal government build on basic necessities that then should be applied throughout the nation? Or what would you sort of propose?
Well, sadly, we really come up against the Constitution whenever you try to talk about that. And that is a document that is unchangeable.
It's evolving, but it's firm.
It evolved for a while, but,
under the current regime, it's a little difficult.
Well, it would require the majority vote in so many states. And, we just got the last state to vote on equal rights for women, and we can't get the federal government to ratify the Constitution for that. So the chances of us going beyond that, when that took, I think, from the 70s to now, maybe the 60s, I'm not sure. I don't think further evolution is really something we should bet on. We're going to have to figure out how to help ourselves within the current regime.
We have seen states act independently, self-help, shipping people from one state to another.
Yes.
People are showing up in suburban Vermont,
yes,
not knowing where they are, undocumented.
Yes.
Can we talk about this? This is something that I've written and talked about to some extent. I sense this isn't something that is talked about enough. I really want you to impress us with where we can go when it comes to this topic with the migrant crisis.
Well, a lot of academics have been talking about this for decades. And one of the things Dubai has that the United States doesn't have is we don't have a guest worker policy. And the United States hasn't really shown that they're very good at looking to the world for ideas. I think we're used to people looking to us for ideas, and I think it might be time for us to look to the world.
It's time.
And a guest worker policy, we know academically at least, would really help our borders, because people don't want to leave their families. They don't want to send their children across the border alone. They don't want to, go for days with coyotes just so they can give birth in the United States. They don't actually want to do that. What they want is a living wage and then to support their families. And what we've found is people actually want to work in the United States and go home. That's what they really want.
Absolutely.
And they can't do it because we don't have a guest worker policy.
Why is there so much discrimination when it comes to these people looking to come to the U.S. and help take on jobs? And quite frankly, some of these jobs are jobs that Americans with higher education don't want to do.
It's the evolution of immigration, right? My grandmother immigrated to the United States. Even though I'm African American and I know my descendancy back to the last slave family, my mother's side of the family were slaves in the Caribbean. So my grandmother's also an immigrant, as well as the family was a former slave. So I know what it's like to be African American, and I know what it's like to be an immigrant. And she came to the United States and cleaned families' homes. And then I went to Brown and Princeton. So I have the immigrant story in my family too. And the issue is that the United States has accidentally created a friction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. But we should be accountable for that. We should recognize that we created that friction, because a lot of the supporters of some of the anti-immigrant policies you've seen are coming from first-generation former immigrants. That
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, but I think it's a challenge that we've made for ourselves. We created that friction by bifurcating the story when the story is really the same. Everyone comes to America for opportunity. That is true of absolutely everyone. And if you were born in America, someone in your family came to America for opportunity.
Without a doubt.
So that is the story, and we need to get back to that foundation. And how can we serve everyone equally that comes for the opportunity that is America?